welcome to another edition of the Craig Carton Show. Great to have you here for a very special Friday morning program. Of course, Tyrone A. Johnson still recovering from what it has to be the most vicious flu in the history of influenza. Still down in Philadelphia. Good morning, Tyrone. How you doing today, pal?
Good morning. I think I'm doing well.
You still sound
today,
like crap.
actually.
You're still all nasally. Ugh.
What do you mean to do?
Your
What do you want
immune
me to do?
system is like a child's.
I don't know what's going on here. I'm out here soldiering on a Friday.
Yes, you are. Anyhow, we got a great show for you today. Baseball officially is back because the Yankees have their home opener today. 5-1 Yankees against the 5-1 Marlins, by the way. Excited for that this afternoon. First pitch is right around 1:30 by the time they get cooking. But a lot of stuff in the news. Let me just get to the lowest hanging fruit. Let's put a capper on the Tiger Woods stuff if I can. And Tiger Woods pulled the old, do you know who I am? Without saying, do you know who I am? Because he tried what would have been the greatest flex of all time to get out of a ticket, an arrest, DUI, and anything else you might get pulled over for. So as you know, you guys all know the story by now, but now that the body cam videos have come out from the arriving police officers, who obviously know it's Tiger Woods decides to go for a stroll. Now, I've been pulled over. I imagine you've been pulled over, Tyrone. I don't remember the police officer ever allowing me to go for a stroll 100 yards away from where they're standing, with my phone in my hand, by the way. But he's Tiger Woods, and at that point, maybe they don't know exactly what's going on, right? And they're more concerned that everyone's safe and alive, which he obviously was. So the officers, you're going to show you a video here, is like, Mr. Woods, if you could kindly stay somewhere near me as I do my investigation. And then Tiger Woods attempts what will go down in history as the greatest attempted flex of all time, when he tells the police officer who he was just speaking to. Let the video play, guys.
All right, you got it. All right, thank you. Bye. Say again?
Just keep you down here with us, please.
Yeah, I was just talking to the president.
Yeah, I was just talking to the president. The PTA president? No, not that one. The HOA president? No, not that one. Oh, the President of the United States of America? Yeah, that one. So, like, what do you think the attempt or the purpose of that phone call is, other than, Mr. President, I just got pulled over. I got Percocets running through my bloodstream right now. Is there anything you could do to make this go away, right? That's got to be the purpose of that phone call, no?
Of course, that's the only reason. That's the only reason you do it, is for that very reason.
Right. Can you have, at the time it was Pam Bondi, of course, she's no longer in the position. Can you have the nation's most powerful law enforcement person maybe reach out to these local yokel cops and make this go away? That's the only reason for that phone call. And if successful, which it wasn't, it's the greatest flex of all time. Don't you think?
Absolutely. No, I tried something like that in Belmar, New Jersey once. It did the opposite thing, because I tried to cite your name, and it made the officers more angry.
No, not in Belmar. I'm beloved in Belmar.
Yes.
Belmar cops adore
not
me.
at that time.
Well, how
not
long
at that
ago
time
was this?
you were.
How long ago was this?
This is about 07, 06.
2006 might have been a tough year for me with certain police officers in New Jersey, when the spokesperson for the New Jersey State Police held a press conference and gave out my make and model of my car, my license plate number, and my home address at a press conference on Fox Philadelphia. That is a true story, by the way. Because he was upset that I found out that he'd been caught in a DUI himself, and the New Jersey State Police swept it under the rug. His name was Davy Jones. He's a scumbag and a bad guy, and he tried to put my family's life in danger. That is a true story. That being said, now you can reference my name as much as you want.
Oh, yeah.
Because I am beloved now by all law enforcement from coast to coast. So that's the first thing Tiger did. He calls the president up and tries to get out of the situation unsuccessfully.
That's bold.
And then the second flex was they allowed him to get his golf clubs out of the car. Now, I guess that might be a standard thing. Like, they have nothing to do with the accident. It's not like contraband. It's not weapon. It's not any of that kind of stuff. Of course, you might have wanted to check that golf bag for drugs, which is I'm not sure if they did or didn't, considering they found two pills in his pocket. But they say to him, I guess he keeps his putter in a separate place in his SUV. And they say to him, do you want the putter also? Because he refers to his golf clubs as his sticks. He goes, just give me my sticks. And then one of the officers, who's plainclothes, says, what about the putter? Do you need that also? And Tiger Woods drops another doozy on him. He goes, well, I have won 14 majors using that putter. So yeah, can you get me the putter? That guy thought he was going from that accident right to Augusta, Georgia to play in the Masters. And no one's going to convince me otherwise.
You're right. You're absolutely right. He really thought this is a minor blip. I'll be home in 30 minutes and we'll just move on with our lives. He really, really thought he was going to get away with it. And for his sake, I'm glad he did it because they may have long-term saved his life.
Well, for everybody's sake, for if I'm driving anywhere near Tiger, if Tiger obviously gets back in the car, which he clearly would have done, but I will say it's such a great insight into how Tiger Woods thinks. And while I know he was not maybe thinking with his right mind because he's under the influence, it appears, of Percocets at the time, and God knows how many he has to take these days to relieve himself of the pain we know that he does suffer physically. But he drops the president and he drops the 14 majors, thinking that either the president's going to get him out of the little pickle that he's in, or these guys are obviously sports fans. They're going to be like, are we really busting Tiger Woods' balls? He won 14 majors with that putter. And it's just the mindset there when the mindset should be, get my lawyer on the phone because I'm screwed right now and I'm not going to have a driver's license for the next year. And if they find out where these pills came from, I might be found with a drug possession felony charge here as well. And they might find out that I'm illegally doctor shopping these pills. And that means a lot of other people are going to get in trouble, like the doctors that wrote those prescriptions for him to get those pills. Those would be the things you might consider thinking about at that moment. But he ain't thinking about none of it. He's thinking about, I know the president because I'm banging his son's ex-wife.
I mean, that's wild.
And I took his granddaughter out golfing as a favor to him. Well, it's time to cash in all favors, right? That's what he's thinking.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And I pardon the pun here, but he's saying to himself, I got a trump card, but I'm bumped because I took Kai Trump golfing as a favor to the president, right? And he's calling it all favors as opposed to worrying about, am I going to prison tonight? He thought he was going to take that putter and those sticks, his words, not mine, to Augusta, Georgia on the next private flight out of Palm Beach or Jupiter, Florida, wherever the heck he was, right? And that shows you, rich people think different than me and you.
They absolutely do. And I have to say, Craig, you're going to have to make a change because you've called LeBron James the most narcissistic athlete ever.
Yeah, but I did say something nice about him yesterday.
You did, but we know. At least for the next year, it's Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods is worse. To have the gall, he knows he's high. Like, we don't know. Maybe the cops don't know at that moment for sure. But Tiger knows he's on the pills heavy. He knows that.
Of course
you see his eyes. He's got the sunglasses on. He knows he's high. You try to call the president. You try to brag all while you flipped a car. Dude, you flipped a car. Anybody normal is going crazy if they flip a car. Tiger's the most narcissistic person in the world.
Well, look, he's probably up there. I'd have to give that some thought tonight. Get back to you on Monday on that, but he's certainly up there. I'm concerned right now with this light right here, maybe that one over there, because I'm looking at myself on camera, which is what I do, and I look like I'm starring in Powder 2, the remix. Do I not? I look terrible right now.
When was the last time you didn't wear a hat or a hood, though?
Yeah, but like I can throw the hood back on. I can obviously wear a hat, but I look like I came out of the Elmer glue factory today. And I'm going to tell you something right now. While I look thinner and I look handsome, this is a bad look for a person.
All parlays are pretty much the reason that FanDuel and DraftKings were able to become profitable a couple years ago. Think about a straight bet that someone places on a sports book, usually about 5% hold rate for a sports book. A parlay, it's about 20%. So there's a reason that all the promos you get, all the advertisements, all centered around parlays.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Massive shift in the sports landscape that the national media desperately does not want to admit. And I am talking about Major League Baseball officially overtaking the NBA as the second most popular sport in America. And the momentum has completely flipped. Numbers don't lie.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Myles Garrett's getting traded, and I think the Eagles make the most sense for the trade. The Browns need a wide receiver.
They do.
They need as many picks as possible. The Eagles are built to win right now. So where do they pick 21? Do you have that?
I believe it's 23.
All right, so let's assume it's 23. You give up the 23rd overall pick.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Find some opportunities to make yourself some money, or to find a middle, or man, that doesn't look right, I'm going to go under it, whatever, arbitrage, hedge. You could do all of these things. It's why we do these shows. And in-game betting, I know a lot of people that make a lot of money off of in-game betting. There's nothing wrong with in-game betting. I think it's much more good than it is bad. But sometimes for your own peace of mind, it is okay to just walk away and check on it later.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Hey, welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. You're right, Tyrone. It looks much better with the hood on. I look less pale.
There you go.
With the hood.
There you go.
with the hood on. I'm not ashamed of being bald and pale, but I look much better in about 3 months from now when I spend all day outside chopping wood. So I'm very excited for those days. You're interesting that today is the Yankee home opener. As you know, New York has one of the largest Jewish populations of any city in America, maybe the largest, if I'm not mistaken. And, of course, a big Catholic population as well. And the reason I bring that up is today is, of course, Good Friday. A couple days before Easter Sunday, of course, for those of you that celebrate that. We hope you have you don't say Happy Good Friday, right? But you say, hope you have a successful weekend or prayer, or I don't know the right terminology. I apologize for that. And I don't think you say Happy Passover either, right? You say have a good Passover or have a healthy, safe, whatever the heck it is. I don't know. But it's interesting that the Yankees have the home opener today because, if I'm not mistaken, Jews can't eat bread during Passover. You're not supposed to, right? I don't think you go to hell if you
That's
do,
right.
but you're supposed to observe the holiday and have matzah, unleavened bread, right? And Catholics today are not supposed to eat meat. So
That's right.
That's going to be a tough day if I'm a concession stand dude looking to make tips, right? But
Yeah, I mean, you go load up on peanuts.
A lot of the people that do go, and this probably applies to every game today, right? Not just the Yankee home opener. I only bring it up because from a Jewish standpoint, there are more Jews in New York than any other city in the United States of America, I believe. But wherever there's a home game today, the Jewish people go into that game, in theory, you're not having a hot dog or a burger, right? And the Catholics
That's
are
right.
getting
No bread.
sausage, peppers, and onions, right? So are we accommodating the two significant holidays in our country based on religion and serving like some type of matzah bride for the Jews? And are we getting like a fillet of fish for the Catholics? It's an interesting day.
I'd like to think so. Now, I don't know anything about the matzah, okay? My people aren't matzah
It's like
people.
a cracker.
How's
You know
that?
what it is.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, I know what it is. I'm talking about when you make it, does it work well in bulk?
Well, you can't make it. You got to buy it. Like, I could go home and make bread right now. I can't go home and make matzah right now. And you can just buy boxes of it. I wonder if they're going to let you bring it into the stadium today. But I don't, like, you think the Yankees are serving some kind of matzah concession stand or like hot dog on matzah, which would be very hard to eat because, you know, it just cracks. Like, you could just shove a hot dog down my throat without anything. But it dawned on me today. It was a very unique thought. I'm probably the only guy that had it in the country. That how are we accommodating the non-meat eating crowd, Catholics, and how are we accommodating the non-gluten eating people, the Jews today?
Oh,
right?
There you go.
Like,
That's a very good point you make.
I would open up some type of I don't know, gefilte fish station outside Yankee Stadium today and make a mint. That's what I would do. Because everybody can eat bad bologna fish, right? Catholics and Jews.
Now, what if people are tailgating? I know tailgating's not the same thing at Yankee Stadium and some other more suburban places or even Citi Field, but what can you eat beforehand that's 100% safe that's a tailgate-ish type food?
So that's a great thing. I think if you're Catholic, you got to go sushi or fish. Like if you're practicing Catholic, obviously, there's 45,000 people, 50,000 people at Yankee Stadium. Let's just be honest. A bunch of heathens, right? Bunch of heathens. 95% of them are going right to hell, right? Because today's the day for prayer and your connection to God and Jesus and all those things. And you're going to be out there shoving sausage down your throat in the third inning going, come on, Judge, you suck. How about you get a hit this year? You batted 111, right? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So anyhow, if you are practicing a religious person and you're going to either the Yankee home opener today or to any one of the many baseball games that'll be played today, you got some tough decisions to make with your life. I guess you could starve. You could fast, I suppose. I don't know.
That's a tough thing to do during a baseball game, though.
Yeah, but now there is one new thing that they're promoting at these baseball games today. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it or not, Tyrone. It's called the Wiener Wallet. Have you seen the Wiener Wallet? So it's kind of like a strap-on, which I know you are familiar with, and in front, there you go, the Wiener Wallet. So you've got a little compartment on the right side for your condiments, your mustards, your ketchup, your relish and whatnot, right? And then right in front, you can just put the hot dog right in front. So if you get a couple hot dogs, maybe you got one in your hand, you eat it. You got the other one in the holster right there, ready to go. And on the side, you've got the condiments there. And look, it's $21 it says right there. And we were thinking what it would look like if you and I went to a Phillies game, a Mets game, or a Yankees game. That's me wearing the Wiener Wallet. I was doing that before the show. That's actually a cartoon of me this morning in studio, rocking the Wiener Wallet. Now wait a minute, that's not right. Right. That's not accurate at all.
It's extremely accurate. That is exactly.
Wiener Wallet be longer than my Wiener Wallet.
I tell you why. After the show,
not a fair representation of anything.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. On that previous graphic, even though this one is correct, it said $21 and then $48 on the one.
Are you the $48 one?
Say you're cheap. Yeah, you're being cheap and you didn't want to spend. See, right there on the graphic, they can bring it back up.
There you go.
It's 21 or 48.
Yeah.
I spend money and you don't.
Go. By the way, that's a much better explanation for the size discrepancy.
Why spend a couple $, Craig? Come on, man.
That's right. It also reminds me of that silly promotion that the Mets are doing, the Phillies are doing, a few other the Giants are doing it. The 999 challenge. My wiener there looks like the one they're actually serving in the 999 challenge. Anyhow, enjoy opening day today. If you have an opening day, if you just have a regular game that's not opening day, obviously enjoy that as well. Now, coming up in the next break, I was thinking when I walked in this morning, and I want you to give it some thought during the break, Tyrone. If you're watching right now, just give it some thought. It's literally a 2-minute break, all right? I was thinking of an updated list of the 4 most important athletes of the last 100 years in this country, all right? And I think you'd be interested in the 4 people I have. And I'll tell you out of the gate, there are 3 men on my list and 1 woman on my list. These are the 4 most important athletes, not the greatest athletes, the 4 most important athletes in this country in the last 100 years. So give it 2 minutes of thought. The Craig Carton Show with Tyron Johnson continues right after this. welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. Tyron Johnson here as well as we get ready for the big holiday weekend, Passover, Easter, of course, coming up on Sunday. All right, it's a new list. It's an updated list. It's the 4 most important athletes in America over the last 100 years, okay? So I'm not going back to like Althea Gibson and people that were very important just after the turn of the 20th century, okay? So I'll give you my 4, you give me your 4, okay? I think we're going to share 2 in common so we can get those 2 out of the way first because there's no real conversation around them. The 2 that I think have to be on everybody's list in no particular order. But Jackie Robinson, obviously, breaks the color barrier in Major League Baseball and was obviously very important from a civil rights standpoint in this country. And Muhammad Ali. So I think we agree they're on your list as well, Tyrone. And I don't think we need to get into what they did, obviously. You're talking about a guy that gave up his career in the prime of his career for what he believed in and what many people believed in, didn't have a voice in that, and that's Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay, and, of course, Jackie Robinson. Okay, so we put them aside. They are always on everyone's list. If you ever don't have them on your list, then there's something wrong with you. The next 2 are interesting, though, because my gut is you're not going to disagree with mine, and I'm not going to disagree with yours. And I'm assuming here, and I don't know this because I didn't ask you, that they're 4 different people. All right, so we'll go 1, 1, 1, 1, okay? So my first one is actually Tiger Woods. Because Tiger Woods changed the sport of golf in a manner that no other golfer could have. Being, as he said, Blasian, black and Asian, and bringing the sport to minority community, which he did more than anyone in the history of the sport, and making the sport cool, and making the sport something young kids wanted to do, and even the rise of the YouTube golf word now, I think it goes back to Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods made golf accessible to the inner cities and minority communities, and 2, made it cool to the white community. That was kind of like a stodgy, stick up your ass kind of sport, and the fandom of golf were very similar in that regard. So I think Tiger Woods, and that obviously the story of the last week made me rethink Tiger's place in American sports anthology. And I think Tiger Woods is the single most important golfer of all time, of any color. And I think by default then becomes one of the most important athletes of the last 100 years in this country. So I have Tiger Woods.
Yeah, I can't argue with that at all. But Tiger, to me, is sort of the 3rd iteration of the person I'm thinking of. And mine is O.J. Simpson. And I understand what O.J. did. I'll say he did it. He was found not guilty. I know what O.J. did. But Tiger ended up being a great pitch man in addition to everything he did in the sport itself after Michael Jordan. O.J. Simpson was the original, in my opinion, for that because he opened up that black people in general could just sell products. Hertz rental car, period. Previous to that, when you obviously had famous black athletes forever, you had them do black products. Once O.J. came, it became just products. Jordan then takes that to the next level, and then Tiger Woods takes that globally. And also personality-wise, O.J. went out of his way to say, I'm not black, I'm O.J., just like Tiger Woods you mentioned with the Kablasian and all that stuff. Very similar personalities, not with the murder.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought of O.J., but he was the first athlete to truly cross over where the white sports fan accepted him from a pitch standpoint and didn't view him as a black athlete. So I never would have thought of O.J. Simpson, but I'm with you 100%. All right, my last one here, and you might push back a little bit on this, but I'm going to win anyway, and it's Caitlin Clark. Like Billie Jean King, yes, obviously at the time that she came around and created Title IX, which was probably the most important thing to this day in the history of women's sports, and I have a great admiration and respect for Billie Jean King. Caitlin Clark made WNBA basketball viable. And while there are great players before her, and we could argue there are better players than her in the league, like A.J. Wilson, like maybe Paige Buckets, and maybe others that you name that I don't even know, Caitlin Clark changed the entire dynamic of a sport and an ecosystem of sports that made the WNBA both relevant and worth investing in. This is a sport that's lost hundreds of millions of dollars, that had no audience whatsoever, either on TV or even in the arenas that these talented women played in. And then without trying, along comes Caitlin Clark, and overnight, the sport of women's basketball became viable and a little bit relevant. Not as much as they think it is. And I think Caitlin Clark right now is one of the most important athletes in this country in the last 100 years. I know they tell me I only have 25 seconds, so give me yours, and after the break, we'll go over the 2 extra ones. Go ahead.
Mine is Serena Williams, and the reason is I feel like Serena's being so legitimate with men watching her leads to Caitlin Clark. You don't get a Caitlin Clark if you don't get Serena first. She had to open the door to me to get a Caitlin Clark.
Then what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to put Serena Williams on the shelf. I'm going to put Caitlin Clark on the shelf. And I'm going to go back to the original, and that's got to be Billie Jean King. Because no Billie Jean King, no Serena, no Caitlin. So I'm going to put Billie Jean King back on the list. We'll discuss after this.
Discussion in March was, oh, this ABS is ruining everything. There's challenges in the second inning and the third inning. And yes, for CB Buckner, that has been the case. But for every other umpire in Major League Baseball, what you're seeing, Donnie, is exactly what you said. This is going to normalize. We did see a lot of success in the first couple of days of the season.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
I think there's an opportunity down the board. I think Pete Alonso likely has some new life. And what about your boy Schwarber here? We know,
come on,
up at the top, he's going to have enough at bats and enough pitches to do it. Sounds like he's got 40 to 50 home runs. I don't even think working really hard this year.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.
So much to get into.
So much to get into, so little time. Listen, this is a time of year where it's great basketball. Teams that have to be at their best, some teams at their best for 40 minutes, some teams at their best for 36 minutes. But at the end of the day, you got to play your best 40. Otherwise, you're going home like we saw over the last couple of days.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Urging them to stop offering these certain sports-related contracts it believes are especially ripe for manipulation. These are markets like what is someone on the broadcast going to say during the game, which you can bet on. It's called mention markets, which could be anything like Tom Brady saying, "Oh, I think that they're going to run an RPO."
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Hi, welcome back to the Craig Carton Show. Tyler Johnson here. Crazy story from a former Indianapolis Colts player that I was watching this morning on Twitter. Chris Ballard's the GM out there in Indianapolis. He was telling a story about why Andrew Luck left Indianapolis. And like so, I love when these stories come out years later. We get the truth of why a guy in his prime as a top 5 quarterback in the NFL by most accounts decided just to say, I'm done playing football. So as the story goes, and I'm blocking on the player's name, I apologize for that, but I'm sure you guys can find it on social media after the show. He tells the story that Andrew Luck was tired of being banged up and being hurt all the time and did not want to have what he deemed as unnecessary surgeries to fix problems. He wanted his body to heal on its own. So Andrew Luck goes to Chris Ballard and says, look, I'm tired of being hurt. Like the offensive line, I'm getting killed out here. I do not want to have surgery, so I'm just letting you know I'm not having surgery. I might not be ready come week 1 because I need my body to heal. Chris Ballard then says to him, if you don't play, we're going to trade you or cut you. But we're not dealing with this crap from you. And because of that, Andrew Luck said, oh, is that right? I quit. And that's why Andrew Luck walked out on the Indianapolis Colts at the start of that football season, because Chris Ballard said, I don't want to hear that you're not going to be ready. We're paying you a lot of money. You're a franchise quarterback. Essentially, my words, not his, man the F up. You're a football player. Act like it. We got to play hurt. That's what we do. And rather than be sensitive to a player saying, I'm broken right now physically, I want my body to heal, he said, either you play or you're gone. So then Andrew Luck made it easy for him. Go F yourself. I quit. Now, if you're a Colts fan And you wake up today and you see that story. And to be fair, the story's unchallenged right now. Chris Ballard's going to have a chance, I'm sure, this week or by next week to respond to that because, reporters going to ask the question. But if you're a Colts fan and you look at the quarterbacks the Colts have gone through since Andrew Luck was there, whether it's Carson Wentz or Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones or, dare I say, 90-year-old Phillip Rivers, right?
Yeah.
Don't you demand that Chris Ballard gets kicked to the curb and fined?
He should have been fired. He should have been fired. Like, it's unbelievable that they would let this happen. And I don't want to speak ill of the dead, but how does the owner, Jim Irsay, who was alive at the time, how does he allow it? How does he pick his GM instead of his player? How does he not intervene there?
Yeah, great question. Now, he may have been in the middle of, his issues at the time because he had well-known drug issues. I'm not sure the timing, how that matches up.
Yeah,
it's a great question.
Possibly.
But, if I'm a Jet fan. We talk about this all the time. I've never had a quarterback in my lifetime. You're in Philly. Obviously, the Jalen Hurts story is not going away. I was talking to Howard Eskin about it yesterday because he's taking victory laps and he was on it, before anybody else. And I love Howard, but that's what Howard does, right? But it turns out he might not be wrong. Like, there's obviously issues right now with Jalen Hurts. Maybe you run Jalen Hurts out of town. But the Colts had a franchise quarterback. And the GM decided, I'm going to be a tough guy with my franchise quarterback and set my franchise back 20 years by saying, hey, loser, either you play or we're getting rid of you. If I'm a Colts fan, I want blood.
Yeah, it's like if he's not gone, we riot. Like, I'm not a violent person, but that would make me violently mad.
If I'm the Irsay relative, that I forget the gal's name, the daughter, right? That's running the squad, and I see this podcast interview with a former Colt player, I'm not waiting till Monday. Hey, Chris Ballard, you need to be in my office now because I wasn't running the team when this happened, so I don't know what happened. Maybe my dad didn't tell me the true story. But I need to look you in the eye, and you need to tell me, did you say to Andrew Luck, either play or we're moving on from you? If the answer is yes, then pack your bags. Right?
Yeah,
you
I don't need to know anything else.
Manager.
No.
Plus,
no, absolutely
you traded 2 first-round draft picks for Sauce Gardner last year. I should have fired you for that.
Well, no, she has to eat that one. She was on board with that
that's
one.
on her. She said yes.
That one's on her. Yeah, that one's on her.
Yeah, but she's going to blame him.
It's absolutely terrible. Of course.
But
here's
I'm
the
sitting there
thing.
going, I've never had a good quarterback. They had a top 5 quarterback. They were a perennial playoff team with Andrew Luck. And you lost Andrew Luck because your GM decided to go tough love on a guy? Whoa. Could you imagine and I always do this, Tyrone, because, look, I think Philly and New York are very similar from a fan standpoint and how we react to things. So I always think, what would happen if that happened in New York? And for you, what would happen in Philadelphia if you guys found out that you had the second greatest quarterback, maybe the third greatest quarterback, if you count Johnny Unitas and Peyton Manning, and then there's Andrew Luck, but one of the greatest quarterbacks, obviously, your franchise has ever had, who brought your team back to respectability, gives you a chance to be in the playoffs every single year. How would you react in Philadelphia if Harry Roseman said, yeah, I told him, play or I'm getting rid of you, and he left because of it?
Yeah, well, Howie would be going, and Lori, this kind of happened with Reggie White in a way with Norman Bremen. He's arguably the best defensive lineman to ever live. The Eagles had him. He ends up in Green Bay. They made him sell the team. Like, the fans went so crazy, and the league went so crazy, he had to sell the team to Jeff Lurie shortly after. You were covering the team during that era. It couldn't happen in Philadelphia. No one would be safe physically, let alone their job.
I agree 100%. So it's interesting that these stories come out now because the story back then was just that Andrew Luck had lost his zest for football, didn't like playing anymore. He always had all these other interests like dressing up like a revolutionary soldier and cause wordplay kind of nonsense, like a weirdo. Like, you ever see those guys that go out there that they reenact the Revolutionary War, the Civil War? They're out there with fake bayonets. And I drive by them going, losers! Like, we know how this story ends. Why do we have to reenact it? Unless you're telling me the British win this time. I've seen this story before. And they go out there like it's an annual event. And they dress up like, hey, Billy, you're the British today. It's like, son of a bitch. I'm always the British. I always take the first bayonet. That's not fair. Yeah.
You just lay in the grass at that point.
Like, and they've never seen a naked vagina. Like, these are like Dungeons and Dragons fools who are allowed out of the house. And they were like, man, I can't play Dungeons and Dragons outside, but I can dress up like a colonial soldier. I'm in.
You know what happens now lately with the Civil War reenactors?
With
Black
the Civil
people
War
show up
reenactors?
Yeah.
I don't
Black
want to be
people
a part
show
of
up in
that.
chains, and they get very uncomfortable.
They show up in chains?
You want us to be accurate? Yes, because that's what would have been happening during the Civil War. And the white people that are doing it get very uncomfortable. There's video online.
I wouldn't want to be a part of that reenactment at all, because it might not go my way.
Which side would you want me to stand on, guys? Just tell me where to stand.
Okay, which one of you is Robert E. Lee this time? Anybody? Any takers?
Anybody?
No, not
All
me.
right, now, am I going to stand by you, or am I going to be, what am I doing here?
Hands
they
in my
freak
pocket.
out.
Hands in my pocket. Anyhow, so that's a situation that came up today in Indianapolis, which I did think was interesting. And let me just dovetail that into real quick, the update on Jalen Hurts. It's getting crazy now. Now, it seems like in Philadelphia, the tides have turned, and all the tides are against Jalen Hurts, where now they're suggesting that if you want to reach Jalen Hurts, this is today's report I saw, that the way to get to Jalen Hurts is through the media. That he don't want to hear anything face-to-face, man-to-man, or in a one-on-one. That the only way to get him to react and to listen to what your criticisms are is to do what just happened. Leak a story to ESPN, leak a story to the local media that covers the Eagles, put stuff on social media, put anonymous sources out there as well. That's apparently the way to get to him, and he's built up some kind of wall between him and any criticism that you might want to send his way internally. That does not sound like the guy that I've read about, but you might know better because you're in Philadelphia.
Yeah, also some of the people reporting this, they're mad that Hurts won't talk to them. I just want to make that clear.
Got it. So there's some jealousy there, like who he's got a relationship with and who he doesn't. But I'm going to tell you this. The Jalen Hurts story, one way or the other, is not going away, meaning the Eagles are done. Craig Carton Show. Tyron Johnson here as well. I think he'll be back in studio with us on Monday. God willing that he gets over what's obviously the single worst cold that any human being's ever suffered from. Hey, did you happen to see the Lakers last night, anybody? You see how the Lakers lost by 90 to the Thunder yesterday?
100? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's close. They lost by 43. So a couple things that came out of that game. One, Luka Doncic pulled his hammy. He's playing MVP level ball right now, leads the league in scoring. He's going to be the scoring champion this year, but it does put that 65 game number in doubt. He's definitely going to miss some games because they're going to get him an MRI, I guess, today, but he's going to miss a couple games. And I think, what's he at, 62 right now, I think? So he's got 3 games to go to be qualified for all the postseason awards. Look, he's way in the distance odds-wise to be the MVP. But, man, it would have been nice for him to get to 65 to see how close the voting was between him and SGA and Jaylen Brown and, I guess Cade Cunningham, although I don't think Cade's going to get to 65 either. But the bigger stuff, if you're a Laker fan, is the Lakers are playing damn good basketball. They're one of the best teams in the second half, and everyone's kind of figured out their role all of a sudden. And they are the 3 seed out west. And if Luka Doncic's hammy's a problem, I'm saying something that's quite obvious, good night, Lakers. It's a wrap if Luka Doncic can't go at the level he's been playing at, because that dude has been balling his face off. But I did get a kick out of the fact that they put the charity case, Bronny James in, down by 50 last night, and they put him in a point guard. And I thought it was great because in the matter of 35 seconds on 3 consecutive possessions, it went like this. Oh, stolen. Oh, stolen. Oh, stolen. 3 straight possessions. Dude couldn't get the ball barely past midcourt and had 3 consecutive turnovers by the same dude. Down 50.
You can't let that happen.
Try to play point guard. Much like his pops, he ain't got no handles.
Well, you can't. Don't do that.
Much like his pops, ain't got no handles.
That's the same. See, I was with you. Even with the feminine
dribble from his daddy. That's right.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah.
See, that's just hate. That's where you go too far.
Maybe
there's a much bigger part of this injury thing, but Bronny deserves the thing. But blaming LeBron for Bronny stinking.
Stolen.
Why so feminine?
Oh, stolen.
Like he's going to have a manly bone in his body. Look at this. Look at this.
Yeah.
No. There's another significant thing with the Luka injury, though, real fast, if I may.
Yeah.
He signed a short-term extension after the trade, thinking I'll play 65 games and I can then get that supermax. He won't be All-NBA if he doesn't play 65 games, so he wouldn't be eligible for the supermax, which then puts him on another short-term contract. That hamstring might cost Luka Doncic $200 million.
Well, one thing real quick. We just double-checked. So he's at 64, so he only needs 1 more game, and because of that, here's what's going to happen. Let's say the hammy is a real problem. And I know he's going to miss some games for sure because of it. And it's more important that he be healthy going into the playoffs than anything else. If that's the case, that this is the year where he could be eligible for the supermax that he lost out on Dallas, which cost him $100-some-odd million when he went to LA in the trade, then they would start him and at the first whistle take him out. I'm telling you right now, if that happens, we want to be the first to tell you that's a possibility. If he plays and gets to a 65th game, making him eligible for all the postseason stuff, and then I assume if Tyron's accurate, that it makes him available for a bigger contract, they will start him and pull him out. And I can tell you now, the basketball world will erupt with criticism that this is another problem that the NBA has. So we'll keep an eye on that, but... now they're telling me that you have to play 20 minutes. Is that right? I didn't know that was a rule.
To get eligible for the game.
I didn't know that.
See, that's the challenging part about this for Luka, because he's obviously All-NBA, obviously. And now he can get the Supermax, but if he's not 65 games, you can't be All-NBA. And if you're not All-NBA, you can't get the Supermax. This could cost him a lot of money, this injury. And that's a big thing for the Lakers' future.
And good job by Ryan downstairs, because I didn't know that rule. So it says here you have to log at least 20 minutes in a game. The only exceptions include a maximum of 2 games where a player logs between 15 and 20 minutes. So if you play a game in which you're in the game for less than 15 minutes, that does not count as a game played towards the minimum. But they do give you a teeny bit of grace where if there's a game in which you played in between 15 and 20 minutes, they'll let you do that twice, and then you still get the credit. So in reality, he's got to play 15 minutes in one more game, and then he becomes eligible for all the stuff that you're talking about there. That's a good catch by Ryan downstairs, because I did not know that. I would have thought, much like they did for Josh Allen this last year, where he played the very first snap, and then they took him out and they said his consecutive streak game continues, and it's a bogus thing. Because he didn't play, he took a snap, handed the ball off to Cook, and then they took him out of the game. And they're like, hey, the streak continues. That's the one thing I would say good about Eli Manning. Eli Manning's Iron Man streak that was rudely interrupted by Geno Smith for one game, and then they brought Eli back. That was a legitimate streak. He played every quarter. He didn't come out of
he
games.
would play into the even bad games, he'd stay into the second half. Even there was the game, the Super Bowl year where he played the last week. They played him into the third quarter before they took him out.
Yeah. Now, I will say something nice about the James family, which is the second day in a row. Second day in a row.
What?
And yes, I have made fun of Bronny's dribbling skills because he doesn't have any. But, there's a big to-do right now in the Final Four, which we're going to get to Tyrone's picks coming up in the final segment, so don't you worry about that. But Bryce James is a freshman at Arizona. Arizona, of course, is one of the one seeds. Arizona plays Michigan in one of the two Final Four games. It's like a pick'em game essentially between those two number one seeds, right? Bryce James got redshirted this year. Bryce James has not played for Arizona, but he's on the bench, and that's the standard rule. No special treatment. Bryce James is there. So when the media came in to interview both teams, there was a really large bodyguard that prevented the media from interviewing Bryce James. Now, the bodyguard was not provided by Arizona. The bodyguard was sent there by LeBron and by Clutch Sports, and that has been confirmed. And they wanted to protect Bryce James from having to talk to the media. But here's my question. Why would you want to talk to Bryce James anyway? Right? Other than to embarrass him. Bryce James has not played for Arizona this year. So why am I want to interview that kid? Doesn't make sense.
Italy can't make the World Cup. That's wildly embarrassed.
Italy, to me, I think they're like the Cowboys, right? They're the Dallas Cowboys, basically. They're this ultimate sort of public team, big merch, monsters.
That's a good one.
Yet they really haven't won in a while. But we're talking about a world superpower.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
As a former pitcher who thought the umpires were wrong far more than people let on, I like the ABS system. But you're going to have problems because umpires are going to start having issue with the fact that they're being called out. Well, here's the thing. Umpires are now going to be treated like players. They're going to get publicly embarrassed when they make mistakes in front of the fans.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
There's a basketball player who's 7'9". He's insignificant on his team. And quite frankly, I don't know if he goes Division 1, 2, or 3 at this point and will be significant. Joe, how can you be 7'9" and not be able to get on the court in college basketball? Shouldn't he be maybe, I don't know, the most dominant shot blocker in the history? I watched Manu Bol be a really good player at times in the NBA.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
We're proud of this class. This is the weakest Hall of Fame class in the history of the Basketball Hall of Fame. This is an embarrassment to the men and women that are deservingly in that Hall of Fame. And the dead ones are rolling over in their grave right now saying, get this basketball out of my gravesite because I don't want to be associated.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
back to the Craig Carton Show. Tyron Johnson here. Picks coming up on the Final Four in just a second. I just wanted to clean up how we ended that segment. There's no reason for the media to demand an interview with Bryce James, considering the kid hasn't played a single game for Arizona, and he's not going to play in the Final Four. So Arizona should have protected Bryce James and not made him available to the media. By all accounts, he's just a good, innocent kid trying to find his way into the world of college basketball. And the fact that Arizona did not consider that, because look, his dad is who his dad is. And the fact that Clutch Sports and LeBron James had to send what amounts to a bodyguard down there and prevent the media from going after Bryce James, I think is the right thing to do. So I applaud them for that. And Bryce James should be left alone. The kid is not a storyline in this Final Four. He is not going to play for them. He has not played for them the entire year. And I'm not quite sure why you'd want to interview him on the eve of the Final Four. Now, if you want to do an interview with him at some other point, like a human interest story of what it's like being the son of LeBron James and trying to navigate college basketball, that'd be an interesting story I might want to watch. But to demand an interview with that kid and for Arizona not to consider not making that kid available to protect him, on this one, I got to tell you, I think Clutch Sports, while I don't like them and they're very heavy-handed sometimes, I totally appreciate and support what they did to back that kid up.
Yeah, and what would you actually ask him that where you would get a decent answer? What are you going to ask him about? The team wins all the time without him. What are you going to ask him?
Right.
He's just
How
a
does
good,
it feel
apparently,
not
like
to play?
scout team kid.
Right. Do you think you're better than Bronny? You know, whatever. It's nonsense. It's nonsensical stuff anyway.
Up.
Real quick, I want to show you what happens when a dad gets overexcited that his son gets his first major league hit. San Francisco Giants yesterday against the New York Mets, right? Out west. There's a dude named Susak who got his first start for the Giants, had 3 hits last night. But after his first hit, you're going to see the Susak family celebrating, and you're going to see a very unhappy 2-year-old who I would check him because he got shook pretty good in this game. But watch this video real quick.
He's miserable. He's miserable.
Yeah. He's not celebrating. He's like, Dad, put me down, Mama. Boobies. Yeah.
It's loud. You're shaking me. I hate this.
That's right. So that whole section there are his friends and family. I'm not sure if that's his
Is that
wife
the mom
or maybe
right
that's
there?
his kid.
Is that the mom?
I'm not sure, but she's pretty
I'm saying.
attractive. In any event,
she got a kid that's grown, or she got a grown son and a little kid?
That poor kid's like, put me down or give me the mama. So congratulations to the Susaks, which is not the Sleesaks. That's not Landon Laws. It's a whole different thing. Those are the Susaks right there. And one other quick story before Tyrone's picks. Sabrina Ionescu is out of her mind. She's demanding now that the folks that produce 2K video games, that they produce a standalone WNBA 2K game. And she's tired of it being just an add-on to NBA 2K. I would say this to Sabrina. Be grateful for what you have, because if you want to further embarrass the sport of women's basketball, tell 2K to release a WNBA version and watch 350 copies get sold, and then explain to people why nobody wants to play the game. Zip it. Now let's go to the Final Four. Of course, you've got 2 great matchups. You've got UConn, Illinois, and you've got Arizona, Michigan. If you're going to wager responsibly. Don't wager more than you can afford to lose. And here's Tyrone with his picks. And you should know that when the tournament started, I had a UConn, Michigan final, and Tyrone had I forget who you had. Who'd you have?
Duke. It was Duke.
You
Michigan.
had a Duke, Michigan
Duke,
final.
Michigan.
All right, so I'm a little bit better than you.
Yeah.
Here's your picks on the Final Four. Go ahead.
Well, we'll find out, because I don't think you are, because in the first game, I'm just going to go in chronological order. I actually like Illinois minus the 1.5 versus UConn. The line doesn't make sense to me. That's part of the reason. Illinois, I've underrated them all year. The Big Ten has been a very, very, very good conference, better than the Big East overall. And I think that's part of the reason why they have the slight edge despite the lack of pedigree. I like Illinois minus the 1.5 versus UConn in the first game.
Okay.
And in the second game, Arizona's damn good, and they're veteran, and they're big. Michigan's damn good, and they're veteran, and they're big. Michigan's is a slight favorite. I like Michigan minus the 1.5 versus Arizona. I do expect both games to be really close, really, really close. And then obviously on Monday, we'll discuss the final.
And you picked Michigan to win it all, yeah? Or you Duke
Yes, I
winning
did.
it all?
Yes, I did.
You had Michigan?
I had
so
Michigan
look,
winning it all. Yeah.
I think, and I know it's going to be cliche, I just hope I get a good game. They should be good games. I think
Yes.
Michigan-Arizona is a nail-biter no matter who wins it.
Right to the end.
These are
Yep.
two heavyweights going head-to-head. And for a good portion of this year, with all due respect to Duke and what the Boozer brothers did, I thought these were the two best teams for the majority of the year. So it's going to be haymaker after haymaker. I would be shocked if any team ever has a double-digit point lead in this game. UConn, Illinois, I feel differently about. I think there's a chance UConn blows them out. The only thing I'd be concerned about is a letdown from how they won the last game. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday.